216, car 22.
This is a policeman by the Sheriff's Department of Great Falls, Montana. It might be called a manhunt, except for one thing. What they're looking for isn't a man. They're not too sure what it is, only that it's about 8 feet tall, weighs anywhere between 300 and 500 pounds, and is covered all over by hair. Half ape, half Superman. In Montana, it's called Bigfoot. In Western Canada, the Sasquatch. There is no real proof that the Sasquatch exists, only this short, blurred piece of film, only the reports of eyewitnesses like those in Montana, and, the most tangible, several thousand giant footprints found up and down the west coast of North America. But for one scientist, that's enough.
Yes, I'm satisfied that there is such a thing as a Sasquatch.
Dr. Grover Krantz, anthropologist at the Washington State University.
Well, I would say that it is probably a continuing example of the Gigantopithecus, which we know from fossil remains. Here, for instance...
If the Sasquatch does exist, it will likely be the distant relative of this extinct creature, the Gigantopithecus. This is a cast of its jawbone, enormous in size, even beside that of a gorilla. 1 million years ago, this creature roamed parts of what is now South and Eastern Asia. Like the bison, the grizzly bear, even the Eskimo, it could have walked across the Bering Strait and disappeared into the forests of northwestern America. Its descendants may survive even today. If they do, they'll be found not by the scientists, but by the amateurs, the woodsmen.
I searched for the last 20 years in the forests of North America for the Sasquatch. I saw footprints here and there. I'm looking for the creature now which makes the footprints, and I will keep on searching till I find the damn thing.
For 21 years, René Dahinden of Vancouver has been roaming the mountains of the Pacific coast from California to northern British Columbia. He's carrying 2 cameras and a rifle, and he's loaded for Sasquatch. In all of those 21 years, Dahinden has never even caught a sniff of the beast. But whatever else he is, Dahinden is a man with a mission. Like any man with a mission, he runs a big risk, the risk that people are going to think he's crazy. Almost any scientist will tell you there's about as much chance of finding a Sasquatch running around these mountains as there is of Dahinden's encountering a unicorn or Lewis Carroll's Phrymius Bandersnatch. What he's after is what many men are after: recognition, fame, perhaps even fortune. There are many ways to achieve this. His way is not the easy way. It is, in fact, the most unusual way, but it's his way.
I don't know what else is there which has this challenge. I couldn't see myself getting a steady job, 8 to 5, 2 weeks a year holiday, your nice circle of so-called friends, a $50,000 or $60,000 home which is paid off in 35 years, and all this rubbish, totally unimportant things. If I would be forced to live that way, I think I would go behind the woodshed and blow my head off.
Still, even a Sasquatch investigator has to eat, and Dahinden earns a bare living here on the grounds of the Vancouver Gun Club. He has a job unique in Canada, a job of his own invention. He's a lead miner. Dahinden reclaims the tons of lead shot scattered downrange from the shotguns of the club marksmen. Like an old-time prospector, Dahinden scoops up earth and dumps it into a sluice box, where the water flushes away the dirt and leaves a small pile of lead pellets, which he then sells back to the club. It's a monotonous job, but Dahinden can work when he wants to and when he needs to pay the bills. Dahinden lives trouble-free and rent-free in this tiny cabin, 6 by 7 by 12 feet. Here, he's surrounded by the things that really mean something in his life. A small library of popular anthropology, man, monkeys, and apes, the abominable snowman, Bigfoot, including his own book on the Sasquatch. In another corner, his hunting rifle, a pair of giant footprints immortalized in plaster of Paris, a statue of the beast carved by a friend, letters by the hundreds from Sasquatch fans of all ages, and a filing cabinet of eyewitness reports going back more than 100 years.
Many people think that the Sasquatch is something new, which just isn't so. We have, by example, David Thompson in 1811 reported footprints found in the upper Athabasca River, where the township of Jasper is today. We have Teddy Roosevelt writing in his book, The Wilderness Hunter, about stories told to him by 2 prospectors. In British Columbia, we have a thing here from July the 4th, 1884, of a capturing of some kind of hairy, man-like creature.
This is Jacko,
Right.
described as something of the gorilla type. He has long, black, strong hair and resembles a human being with one exception. His entire body, excepting his hands or paws, and his feet are covered with glossy hair about an inch long.
Then, of course, we have the classic, what we call a classic in the Sasquatch files. And this is the story of Albert Ostman, who claims he was kidnapped in 1924 by a Sasquatch and carried off in his sleeping bag.
Well, how did you get into the Sasquatch business?
I came to Canada from Switzerland end of October 1953. I was 23 years old. I was working for a dairy farmer 17 miles west of Calgary. One night there was a report on the newspaper about the Daily Mail newspaper in England sponsoring an expedition to look for the abominable snowman. I said to the farmer there, I said, wouldn't this be something to take part in? He said, well, you don't have to go that far. They got hairy buggers like this in British Columbia. His exact word. He didn't anymore quite know the name Sasquatch. He just called hairy things out there, you know. From then on, I pestered him constantly, you know. It kind of grabbed me. You know, that was the beginning.
It was the beginning of years of research, and Dahinden found himself breaking new ground. At that time, in the mid-50s, the Sasquatch was considered nothing more than Indian folklore. The word itself, Sasquatch, is derived from an Indian term meaning roughly wild man of the woods. And even Dahinden himself thought at first that he was looking for some demented and presumably hairy Indian turned wild in the bush. Dahinden's big break came in 1957. That was Centennial Year in British Columbia, and the town council of Harrison Hot Springs came up with a unique centennial project, a Sasquatch hunt. Nobody took it too seriously. It was, in fact, a blatant publicity stunt to put Harrison Hot Springs on the tourist map of BC, and it worked. The news kicked the royal family off the front pages of the Vancouver daily papers, and overnight the town became the land of the Sasquatch. Dahinden was hired to lead the expedition. All, of course, in a spirit of fun.
You honestly believe that there is a Sasquatch in
Yes.
existence?
Yes, I do.
Why is that, sir?
Oh, after I talked with eyewitnesses and people who seen Sasquatch on their own, and all the proof we got on the whole deal, I certainly think that it isn't easy to dismiss the whole matter.
How about the application of the 21-year-old Ontario girl, sir, with her idea to lure one of the Sasquatch out into the open? What have you to say about that?
After I heard about that girl from Ontario, I thought maybe we could send an application to Marilyn Monroe to get her up here. But to be serious, we tried to organize this expedition for this summer and go into the Chehaly Mountains. And if we can get the necessary support, it will be only a matter of time till we find the Sasquatch.
With his life now devoted to the Sasquatch, Dahinden went on pursuing the trail, traveling to areas where the beast had been seen, talking to eyewitnesses, checking out their reports. Always a giant stride behind his quarry, always arriving on the scene just after the Sasquatch had gone. Always, for 20 years, having to settle for a photograph of the tracks and a plaster cast of the footprint.
But, you know, here, there's some of them found which were up to 17.5 inches.
In the United States, they call the monster Bigfoot. Have a look at these plaster casts of its footprints, and you can tell why without too much trouble. One shoemaker estimates that the owner of these feet would need a shoe size 21, 13 sizes wider than the biggest now on the market. So I guess you could say that the hunt for the Sasquatch is now a Cinderella story. They've got the shoe. What they need now is the foot. But Cinderella was not only seen, but filmed in 1967 at a creek in California by a former rodeo rider named Roger Patterson. That short, blurred strip of film is the most important evidence yet submitted by the Sasquatch hunters. In 10 years, no scientist, no filmmaker, nobody has been able to prove it a fake.
The photographer is changing position because the creature walks behind some trees. And, of course, in all excitement, he's wiggling the camera all over.
Couldn't that just be a guy in a fur suit?
Well, let's see when it comes to it, and I explain to you why it isn't. When you look at it closely, you can see the knees are flexed constantly, which isn't a human walk. We think it weighs about 700 pounds, comparing it with a gorilla, for example. You can't compare it with human weight because it just isn't built that way.
Right.
And you see now, watch the knees there.
This film strip lasts only 40 seconds, but when Dahinden runs it over and over through the projector, forwards and backwards, in slow motion and stopped completely, it gets pretty convincing. At least it did to me. But the scientists are more difficult to impress, as Dahinden knows all too well. Like some Sasquatch missionary, he's carried the film and his plaster footprints halfway around the world, showing them off to scientists as far away as Moscow. Without exception, the scientific communities of the world have been interested but skeptical. Typical is the reaction of scientists at the British Columbia Provincial Museum, scientists like Dr. Charles Guiguet.
But the basic thing is there is no concrete evidence at all of this animal. We have no skulls, no bones, nothing. Just these nebulous footprints which can be manufactured, or movies which can be manufactured.
It's true. Footprints and film can and have been faked. Ray Pickens of Chehalis, Washington, fooled a lot of people with his homemade Sasquatch boots, but he did not fool Dahinden. After 20 years, Dahinden knows what he's looking for, and he's sick of arguing with the so-called experts, and sick of the commercial exploitation of what's been his life's work. The Sasquatch has taken hold of the public's fancy in recent years, and it's become a commercial gold mine. This past year, one movie alone took in roughly $16 million at the box office. Dahinden wants a piece of that action, a big piece, and he wants revenge on the scientists who've been scoffing at him for so long.